Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Fuego here.
Continuing our Chucky reviews, continuing our Child's Play reviews, getting into the Chucky saga, as it were.
Yeah, first one, they changed that name up.
Indeed. We already reviewed Child's Play 1 through 3, and now we are getting into the Chucky part of the series, which is 4 movies beginning with Bride of Chucky. Now, this is an interesting one because it is a clear departure from the series prior, while just maintaining the same character. And there were aspects of this movie that I do really like, but ultimately, from this moment forward, at least with Bride and Seed, the series takes a major dip for me. I think it's brought back a little bit with Curse, and I'm still kind of in and out on Cult. We'll see what happens by the time I actually review it, but right now we're going to be talking about Bride. And so we'll give our overall thoughts, then we'll talk about the story, the acting, the effects, the Chucky of it all of that good stuff in turn. And I'll say that while this is a fun entry into the series, it's where the series just departs completely from what Chucky is. I mean, from the fact that this is where they really start to disregard the rules of the series, which is what I think is the biggest problem, because, you know, a horror series lives and dies by its rules that it sets up early on. And the fact that it was always Chucky was under a time limit. He had to get into the soul, or had to get into the body of someone else before he became fully human as a doll in all 3 of the previous installments.
Did they make it as prevalent in the second and third one, though? I don't know if they really...
The second one, absolutely, because remember, he does the performance in the factory, and he's like, it's too late! I spent too much time in this body!
Now I remember
I'm fucking trapped in here!
Yeah.
You know, like, they lean on it heavily, and the fact that he almost gets into Tyler, but it's too late in part 3, too.
It's an aspect of the lore that I'd honestly forgotten about, really, until you mentioned it.
Oh my god, it's a huge part of the lore.
Even after rewatching
So they eliminate that entirely, and now he's basically saying, I just need this freaking necklace that I had around my neck when I got shot in the first movie, which is how I did it. And it's like, bullshit. And also, it brings in Voodoo for Dummies, which is what Tiffany is reading on how to bring Chucky back. And it's spitting in the face of everything that came before. So honestly, I used to like it for certain reasons, but I do not, outside of the gore and the kills, I don't like Bride of Chucky very much anymore.
Yeah, I used to always say that this was my favorite Child's Play / Chucky film, and it's not anymore after this watch, but I don't know if the ground is so sacred that it's like spitting on...
To me, it is, man. I mean, that was 3 solid entries.
Yeah.
Child's Play 1, 2, and 3.
No, and upon rewatch, I definitely agree with that, but yeah, this is very deliberately a little more comedic in tone, a little bit more like of the time in tone, especially with like the goth and kind of industrial aspect to the soundtrack and stuff like that, which I really like, in all honesty. And I do really like Jennifer Tilly in this role. I like where they went with the new storytelling here compared to the stuff with Fiona Dourif in Curse and Cult. I honestly do like this stuff a little bit more, but I just don't know.
Tiffany and all that.
Yeah, I do. I just don't necessarily feel like the execution is done as well as I remembered, and it's much hammier and stupider than I remember. Whereas Seed is deliberately stupid. I feel like, you know, Bride is just dumb in a lot of ways.
When Chucky is drinking the water out of the fishbowl, I'm like, what the fuck are we even doing here?
Seed at least is trying to be dumb and knows it's dumb. Bride, I don't think is quite as
Seed wasn't trying to be dumb. Seed just knew that they were dumb at that point, and they just were like, let's be dumb.
Red Man casting Virgin Mary directing.
God. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Anyway.
So that's our overall thoughts. Let's get into the story of it. So picking up after part 3, when Chucky was thrown into a giant fan, which somehow exists at a haunted attraction.
Quite a ways after 3, though, too, because they were like 1 year, all those first 3 films, and then they waited like 7 or 8 years before this one finally
Something
came
like
out.
that. And so it actually starts off in a really cool way in the evidence locker of a police station, where somehow all of the evidence from the slasher franchises are in this one lockup. So you see a chainsaw.
You see a Freddy glove. You see, hockey mask, all that stuff. Not
You actually see some puppets.
Yeah.
From Puppet Master, too.
Not too different
like,
from the very beginning of that first Child's Play comic where you see Chucky with all the different horror icon stuff, you know, the very first page of it. So I think it's a fun nod and wink and shows the self-awareness of everything that's going down. And you find out that Charles Lee Ray's girlfriend, right before, you know, and a killer herself in her own right, you know, Tiffany, she's instrumental in trying to get him out of this evidence locker and, you know, resurrect him, essentially, get him back alive.
In a fun scene that is ripped off by its own series in Seed and in Curse, or Cult, I think, too. Like, she ends up...
Scene?
Yeah, well, no, the scene when she kills the cop by slitting their throat. She does that 2 more times in 2 movies later.
And she licks the blood.
It's like, oh
too.
my
yeah,
God.
That's like her thing.
It's not that clever, Dawn. Like, Dawn is smelling his own farts by the end of this goddamn series.
Oh, well, you're going to see 8 episodes of fart smelling coming soon to Universal Television in 2020.
But anyway, getting back to the task at hand here. So let's talk about the story again. So she resurrects Chucky, gets the pieces that's left over from part 3, sews them back together. Somehow there's stuffing. I guess she takes stuffing from other dolls and puts it in there, and ends up trying to do the Voodoo for Dummies thing, and feels like it doesn't work when she tries to awake him. And it's only when this poor schlub that lives in the trailer park with Tiffany, that's been trying to get it on with her, that's a death-dealing wannabe, tries to seduce Tiffany, and...
He's this Marilyn Manson wannabe who is actually like a really limp dick piece of crap, man. And you find out that, like, she's trying to implore him to kill people, and she's like, "You didn't kill anyone.
You didn't actually kill this
anyone."
guy.
He's like,
because
no.
he showed her a
He's
picture.
He's like, "No, I'm working up to it." You know,
it's so pathetic and
as
sad.
Poser goth as they come. Where even after she kills him, and then they show in the police report on the news station the side by side of like his actual ID.
Yeah.
He's just some schlubby looking like normal nerdy dude, and then like this is what he looks like now with his presumed. Well, I guess they weren't fake piercings because Chucky was ripping them right out of his face.
Yeah, so basically, he's trying to seduce Tiffany. She plays along because she knows that Chucky gets very jealous. So she also sees that the doll has moved on its own, so she knows that he's back, and obviously he ends up killing the guy, and... Because
she doesn't know if it worked at first, right?
Right.
Yeah, and this guy is essentially the equivalent of the Tool song hooker with a penis. Basically.
So we're spending too much time on this guy. So anyway, Tiffany quickly realizes that Chucky is not the man that she kind of thought he was, and so she locks him in like a baby's crib, and he escapes and kills her and transfers her soul into a doll that she bought to keep him company. And so now they're out together, and I mean, the whole plotting of this movie doesn't make sense because
she gots up the doll.
She hates Chucky, and all of a sudden they're together because they're both dolls, and it's like, it doesn't make sense. Like,
she's just accepting her state. What else is she gonna do?
It's just, I hate it. I hate what Don Mancini did from here on out.
I don't hate it.
I know you don't. It's okay. It's okay, Fuego. Anyway, they end up going on this road trip to find this medallion so they can transfer the souls of their body, or transfer their souls out of the dolls into other bodies.
Because they're trying to go to his grave back in Jersey.
Right, which is where his body was buried with the amulet of Damballa, as they speak.
And so they essentially trick these two almost like Romeo and Juliet love interests who
played
are
by Katherine Heigl as one of them,
looking very young and almost like
looking
Julia
very young
Stiles
and plump. Actually, she has a bit of a rounder face than she grew into.
I guess, sure.
She does.
A little bit.
Hollywood will change a girl that way.
Well, yeah, and that's why I thought it was Julia Stiles at first until I had to start looking through the...
Yeah, because Julia Stiles has a real round face.
She does. Well, no, she does. No, but it was funny because these two characters, like, whereas I like the stuff with Tilly and the background of the girlfriend and everything, I hated Jade and Jesse. I thought they were boring,
so annoying,
lame characters. That's why they only lasted one movie. Although
their gay friend was the most interesting kid in the whole movie.
He was great, actually. Yeah. He was funny. He produced some of the best laughs. And yet you've got the horrible, overbearing uncle of Katherine Heigl's,
played by the late great John Ritter.
Yeah. Although he does have one of the funnier kills where Chucky has one of the better one-liners with the nail gun and everything, which is funny. But I mean, as a whole, it's really not much beyond them. going on this road trip with Jesse and Jade as the drivers because, the Jesse character lives at the same trailer park as Tiffany, and so,
He
she's
gets duped into taking the dolls across the country.
Yeah, for a Jeezy, he's going to get 500 before and 500 afterwards, and he's like, I know we're not supposed to be together, Jade, but let's just leave and get married, and I'll find a job, and blah, blah, blah.
It's a road movie with Chucky and Tiffany, and it's
a little
so
bit. Yeah,
dumb
and
boring.
yeah, and it's got a decent soundtrack, which I guess we'll get to, and that's one of the things that I always remembered about pretty much all of Ronnie Yu's movies. Well, there's like two. There's Freddy vs. Jason, and there's Bride of Chucky, and I do really like them both because they both have great soundtracks, and they're both visually kind of gothic in that sense. I'm trying to remember if he was a Japanese director or a Hong Kong director, but nonetheless, I don't mind the story of this. I can tell you really were upset
just hasn't
about
aged
just the
well, man.
disregard. No,
It's
it
so
hasn't. You were
stupid.
very right about it. It's not aged very well. It has not. And the disregarding of more storytelling with Barkley was probably a bad move.
Yeah,
The fact that
dude,
it took
1, 2, and 3
so long to get back
1, 2,
into
and
it.
3 had a soul. It's ironically enough. The 1, 2, and 3 had a soul. The rest of them just feel like soulless cash grabs at this point. It's a bummer because I love Chucky as much as I do, but man, 1, 2, and 3 are flat out straight masterpieces compared to the rest of these movies. It's terrible.
Honestly, it does really feel like a trilogy to me, and it's like where some people say there's no fourth Indiana Jones movie. Some people say there's no Alien movies aside from even though a lot of people hate on the third one, there's a lot of people that say like 3 wrapped up the trilogy and it's done. Leave it at that. They shouldn't have done Resurrection and some of those others. Perhaps that is the case with Chucky, where they should have just left well enough alone.
Well, they changed the whole branding, so it is basically a separate thing. I mean, it became Chucky instead of Child's Play.
Truly, but it still kept those original films in continuity once we got to the later entries, so it's still all kind of canon, I guess you could say.
Well, let's just jump to the acting and the effects and everything.
I like Jennifer Tilly. I do. I think she's
Jennifer Tilly's
funny,
okay in this
and
one.
she's,
Yeah.
I mean, as I was joking when I was watching,
She doesn't become a caricature of herself like she does in every other version.
well, when they mold her Tiffany character with her actual wink self, and then
Makes me so
wow,
angry.
you look so much like Jennifer Tilly.
Makes me
blah,
so
blah, blah.
angry I'm faint.
No, she amuses me, especially with her voice, because of the fact that she sounds like she's been sucking down cigarettes like a couple packs a day for decades, and so that's that's amusing, I suppose. But yeah, I like her voice work back and forth with Mancini. I think it works well, but pretty much everybody else except for the gay friend is completely forgettable in this movie, including Ritter, who is so one note and not funny as the overbearing uncle. And I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate that at the end of his career here, I mean, I guess I did like him in Bad Santa, which he did about the same time here, a couple of years later, but no, he's not good. There's no memorable performances aside from Mancini and Tilly, so it's their show.
Why do you keep saying Mancini?
Isn't it?
You mean Dorff?
Dorff. Did I keep saying
Yeah.
Brad Dourif, the voice. The voice.
I was like, Mancini didn't do anything in this, but write it.
But write it, and this was the last one that he did not direct because he jumped in with
the worst one, of course.
Yeah.
Yep. We should have known. Yeah. So yeah, the effects in this one are okay. I mean, they're a little bit heavy-handed. I don't like the doll stuff that much. I think it's a bit of a step back from where they got to with Child's Play 3.
It's a step back from 3, but I still think it looks better than Cult and Curse.
Well, yeah. Oh my God, everything took a dramatic step down in Cult and Curse. So
much more meager budget.
But yeah,
kill wise, I mean, you don't like the nail gun kill, the whole.
No,
I could have sworn that I've seen that somewhere before.
Oh, it's so stupid. I hate that stuff.
The
like,
pinhead.
Oh my God, it's so stupid.
What about the couple and the mirror kill
that they redid for Cult?
Which
like,
didn't make
it wasn't that good. Like, it was okay, but it wasn't that good. It didn't. And like, it's so frustrating. And the doll sex and the
the doll sex is weird. The doll sex is weird.
It's just.
How about the ending? Do you like the ending?
No.
No.
No, I mean,
because it segues into your least favorite ending.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why? I don't care. No, I just became real disenfranchised with the series after this point. I still like it a lot because I like those first 3 entries so much, and there's a couple of fun aspects to these, but man, overall, it's just such a disappointing product, knowing how strong the first 3 were. Yeah. To me.
Yeah, no, and it's more I mean, it is more disappointing than I recalled it to be. I blasphemously will say that Now I think I prefer Seed because it's so silly and bonkers stupid compared to this one. And
That hurts
it
too.
knows it's stupid. You know,
It doesn't
will
know
say,
it's stupid. It doesn't know
I
it's
argue
stupid.
that it does. The fact that it went so meta,
Not the whole way through
so
it.
unbelievably meta in that film. Yeah, but
No, because the jokes are still terrible.
Well, I guess we'll get to
We'll
it.
get
but
to it.
One thing this movie definitely has in spades over Seed is the soundtrack and the fact that we have Rob Zombie, Living Dead Girl, we've got Dragula, we've got
Soundtrack was good.
I mean, you know, some White Zombie in there as well, and some other like kind of heavy hitting industrial metal of the late '90s, which is fun. You know, the soundtrack, as I mentioned earlier, Ronnie Yu always makes sure to put together a good one. And aside from that, yeah, it hasn't aged as well as I remember. I have championed this on Killer Flicks and a lot of other places as being the best Chucky entry, which it is definitely not upon some rewatches.
No. So there you go, guys. We're going to go ahead and call this one our review of Bride of Chucky right here. If you guys disagree, let us know in the comments down below. If you haven't rewatched it in a while, though, I suggest a rewatch before you start arguing.
And I stand
because,
corrected
man
there.
alive, whew, this one did not age well at all compared to the first three. So it is a trip how bad this one actually ended up being compared to what I used to think. So anyway, let us know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you like the video, click that like button and subscribe if you want to see the rest of our reviews. We are going to be reviewing the rest of this series leading up to the Child's Play reboot, which we are going to be reviewing as well, along with a bunch of comic books in the Child's Play universe.
So much Chucky!
We unboxed this little guy yesterday if you missed that episode, so that's available on the channel too. So thank you guys very much for watching. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you to our patrons for supporting the channel. The link to that is in the description box if you want to tell us what movies we should be reviewing.
Tell us what to do.
Indeed. But until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias. I've been Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.